Have you ever walked into a room you just cleaned yesterday and felt your whole body soften again almost instantly? It's strange, isn't it?
How a space can change your breathing. How a quiet corner can quiet your mind. How a small moment of order can feel like a small moment of healing.
Most people think organizing is just a habit, a chore, something practical. But for many of us, it's emotional. It's a language our mind uses when words fall short. In part 1, we explored how cleaning brings a sense of control when life feels chaotic, but there's more to it.
A deeper truth most people never think about. For some hearts, peace isn't an emotion. It's a place. A physical place. A room. A scent. A shelf you arranged with intention. A bed you made gently. A kitchen counter wiped clean enough for your mind to breathe again.
Some people need their environment to feel right before they feel right inside. Not because they're perfectionists, but because their nervous system is wired to respond to surroundings with unusual sensitivity. Psychologists call this environmental attunement, the way your inner world reacts to your outer world more intensely than others. It's why a messy room doesn't just look wrong, it feels wrong.
It presses on the edges of your awareness, like background noise you can't turn off. And for people with deep emotional lives, a cluttered space doesn't just clutter their desk, it clutters their mind. When they straighten a pillow or fold a blanket, they're not chasing perfection, they're chasing alignment. A moment where the outer world matches the calm they're trying to build inside.
And that's the part almost no one understands. They don't see how certain people absorb the energy of a room the same way others absorb the tone of a conversation, instantly, fully, without filters. They don't notice how a tidy space gives some people permission to exhale, to feel safe,
to soften into themselves again. For these individuals, organizing isn't about control. It's about coherence. It's about returning life to a rhythm they can emotionally tolerate. And maybe it's about creating the kind of stability they didn't always have. Because for some of us, home isn't where we live. It's where our mind finally stops running.
To soften into themselves again. For these individuals, organizing isn't about control. It's about coherence. It's about returning life to a rhythm they can emotionally tolerate.
and maybe it's about creating the kind of stability they didn't always have. Because for some of us, home isn't where we live. It's where our mind finally stops running.
For many people who love organizing, their relationship with order didn't start with a bookshelf or a laundry basket. It started years ago, in childhood bedrooms, family kitchens, hallways filled with tension or silence. Some people grew up in homes where emotions were loud, unpredictable, or unsafe. Voices were sharp, arguments started suddenly, rules changed depending on moods. Nothing felt stable, except maybe the small corner of the room they could control. For them, tidying wasn't just helping around the house, it was survival. It was the only way to create a tiny island of safety in a sea of uncertainty. A neatly folded blanket, a perfectly arranged desk, a drawer, except maybe the small corner of the room they could control. For them, tidying wasn't just helping around the house. It was survival. It was the only way to create a tiny island of safety in a sea of uncertainty. A neatly folded blanket, a perfectly arranged desk, a drawer where nothing moved unless they moved it. These weren't just organized spaces. They were proof. Here, nothing can suddenly explode. Here, I decide.
Psychologists sometimes talk about this as self-created stability, when a child learns to build emotional safety by managing their physical environment. Years later, that child becomes an adult who feels strangely uneasy when their home is out of order. Not because they're dramatic, but because their brain quietly remembers what chaos felt like. On the other hand, some people had the opposite experience. They grew up in homes where cleaning was used as a weapon, where mess was
Punished, where every out-of-place object was a reason to criticize or shame. For them, tidying doesn't feel healing. It feels heavy. It feels like walking back into pressure, not peace. So they avoid it, not out of laziness, but because their nervous system has linked cleaning with anxiety and judgment.
Same action, different emotional history, different nervous system response. This is why it's so important not to judge yourself or anyone else for how they relate to their space. Some people clean to calm their mind. Some people avoid cleaning to protect their heart. Some people live comfortably in creative chaos and still feel deeply at peace. None of these ways are wrong. They're just different emotional conclusions written by different pasts. But if you're someone who needs your home to feel right before you can relax, it might not be because you're too sensitive or too intense. It might be because at some point in your life, your environment was the only thing you could shape when everything else felt untouchable. And now, as an adult, organizing your home isn't just about today. It's your way of quietly telling your younger self, this time we're safe. This time we decide. Might not be because you're too sensitive or too intense. It might be because, at some point in your life, your environment was the only thing you could shape when everything else felt untouchable. And now, as an adult, organizing your home isn't just about today. It's your way of quietly telling your younger self, this time we're safe. This time we decide.
There's something fascinating about people who feel deeply connected to their space. They don't just like things tidy. They feel the energy of a room the same way others feel the energy of a conversation. A crooked frame, a crowded drawer, a counter full of dishes. These aren't just objects out of place. They are interruptions, static, background noise the mind keeps trying to resolve. And most people don't realize this. Some minds are built with a higher sensitivity to visual and sensory input. Their brains don't filter the environment the same way others do. Where someone else sees a little mess, they feel a kind of emotional static, a low-level hum of unfinished tasks and unspoken tension. It's not dramatic.
It's neurological. Cognitive scientists call this processing sensitivity, a trait where the brain absorbs everything in the environment with more intensity. Light, sound, clutter, colors, textures, all of it enters deeper, stays longer, and affects emotions more directly. For people like this, a tidy space isn't a luxury, it's psychological oxygen. This is why they often say, I can't think when my room is messy, or I don't feel like myself until I clean my space. They're not exaggerating. Their mind literally struggles to organize thoughts when their environment is disorganized. External clarity becomes internal clarity. But here's the deeper truth. Order in the environment creates order in the narrative. The story your brain tells about who you are, what you deserve, what you're capable of, begins in the space you wake up to every day. A made bed first thing in the morning isn't just a ritual.
It's a signal, a message to your mind. We're starting right, we're not behind. Psychologists call this a micro-achievement, a small win that sets off a chain reaction of confidence and momentum. And the opposite is true as well. A cluttered room whispers, you should have done more, you're falling behind, you're not in control. Most people don't consciously hear those whispers, but their nervous system does. That's why clutter feels heavy, not because it's physical weight, but because it becomes emotional weight. And perhaps this is why people who love organizing often have rich, complex inner worlds. Their minds are full of ideas, full of emotions, full of dreams that need room to move. So they create that room outside so something inside can breathe. For them, a tidy space isn't about impressing anyone. It's about aligning their outer world with the quiet, beautiful order they're trying to build within themselves.
There comes a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when you realize organizing your home was never really about the drawers, the shelves, or the clothes you folded softly into a
Perfect line. It was always about you. Because when you step back and look at a room you just cleaned, you're not just seeing order.
You're seeing proof. Proof that you can shape your world. Proof that you can create calm even when life feels loud. Proof that peace isn't something you wait for. It's something you make with your own hands. People often misunderstand this. They think you're just being neat, or wasting time cleaning, or caring too much about small things. But they don't see the truth beneath it. Some people don't clean to impress. They clean to return to themselves.
A tidy room doesn't just look better. It feels like a story rewritten. A moment where the chaos of the world finally steps back and your heartbeat slows enough to hear your own thoughts again. And maybe that's the real reason cleaning feels healing.
Not because everything suddenly becomes perfect, but because, for a moment, you're living inside a reflection of the peace you've always been searching for.
Think about it. Every time you throw something away, you're letting go of what no longer serves you. Every time you place something intentionally, you're reminding yourself that you can choose what stays in your life and what doesn't. Every time you create order,
You're creating a version of life where you belong, a place where your mind doesn't have to fight to breathe. And maybe that's why the quiet after cleaning feels so sacred. It's not silence.
It's alignment. It's you meeting yourself again. Not the rushed version, not the tired version, but the version that knows how to build calm, one small decision at a time. Some people meditate. Some people journal. Some people walk for hours to clear their mind. But you create space. You create beauty.
You create room for your soul to exhale. And maybe, just maybe, that's your superpower. Because in a world that constantly pulls you outward, you've learned how to return inward. In a world that demands noise, you've learned the art of quiet.
And in a world that feels unstable, you've learned to create your own foundation. So the next time you straighten a blanket or clear a countertop or organize a drawer with gentle hands, remember this: you're not fixing a room. You're building a sanctuary, a place where your mind finally feels at home, a place where you finally feel like you.